Hi, this is Brett Ingram, award-winning digital marketer and entrepreneur. And today I want to share with you 6 personal development traits of world-class entrepreneurs. So as entrepreneurs in general, we have sort of a love-hate relationship with personal development. Most entrepreneurs that I know buy into the idea that we can always be improving ourselves, and it's super important to be doing that because we are the biggest asset in our businesses. It's not an ego thing. It's not a braggy thing. It's just a fact because we are the people who are the decision makers. We are driving the ship. So we're making the decisions. We are setting the direction. And so our businesses are going to rise and fall based on our abilities, based on our potential, based on our proclivities and various inclinations, and how good we are at doing the various things we do. So it makes logical sense that the better we are at the stuff that we do, the better our businesses become, and the more potential that we have to grow them even bigger. And so as a general field, personal development and entrepreneurship are sort of brothers and sisters, right? Because you may want to develop personally for your own good and in your own personal life and private life. At the same time, if you're an entrepreneur and you want to run a business, it's super important that there are areas that we shore up as well and areas that we improve so we're able to be the best business owners that we can be. And so there are basically 6 traits. If we really break it down and we take a look at the most successful entrepreneurs and the people who are able to really achieve the most out of everything with their businesses, there are 6 key trait areas that if we can develop, they will make us the most effective versions of ourselves as far as business owners go. The first one is a mindset, the entrepreneurial mindset, right? So the fact of the matter is we can't escape the idea that our minds dictate the rest of what we do. So we can put our shoulder down and we can go as hard as we can. But if we don't have the right mindset, then the problem is along the way we're going to have difficulty navigating the issues that we're going to run into. And so in order to be an effective entrepreneur, we always want to have a mindset where we're thinking about success. We're focused on the positive. There are some people that everything that they do, they just have this general light about them, this general like levity and happiness and joy. And they just go through life that way. I mean, the sky could be falling, everything in their lives could be going terribly wrong, and yet somehow they're able to keep smiling and keep positive and keep focusing on that. And then there are some people that everything, all the lights can be turning green, and they'll focus on the one, problem that, oh, well, that one was yellow before I went through it. And it's important as entrepreneurs that we understand which type of person we are and to what extreme. Obviously those are extreme examples, but the idea is we all fall somewhere in that continuum. And as far as entrepreneurship goes, being a more positive person and expecting good as opposed to expecting the worst to happen all the time is a really important trait for an entrepreneur, especially in a leadership role. Because if we have to, manage other people and we have to interact with them and we're negative and we're down all the time, that's going to rub off. Everyone else is going to start to feel the same way, and the overall effectiveness and success of the business is going to suffer. So even if we feel terrible, we have to fake it. It's super important that we are in a situation where everybody around us knows that we are geared for success. So a success mindset entails a few different things, but for the most part, it's a positive expectancy about what's going to happen, right? We're expecting the best. We're expecting success. We expect to win in everything that we do. And that's the approach that we always have. And that's the approach that we want to rub off on other people as well. I can tell you from my own personal experience, I'm not normally an over-the-top, cheerful, happy-go-lucky guy. For me, it was a bit of a struggle and a bit of a challenge to sort of foster those traits in myself and to get myself to be in a more positive mindset. Whether it's my own, and we can discuss whether this is genetics or whether it is, environmental issues or whatever. But the fact is, I had some negative things happen to me along my entrepreneurial journey. And so I was a little bit raw from that. And so there are times where it's not as easy to always look for the positive. But it's super important to cultivate that as a trait. So we don't want to be down on ourselves if we're not always like that. But we just want to be focused on always trying to build toward being positive with a positive expectancy, a can-do attitude, and certainly a mindset of, we're going to make this happen no matter what, right? So in addition to the positivity, it's the idea that we're going to make this happen. It's the idea that nothing is going to stop us and that we will work through whatever we've got to work through to get there. So just that mindset of success where we're envisioning it in advance, we're predicting what we want to happen, and then we're working our tail off to make it happen is a super important mindset. And if we can make that rub off on everybody else in our organization or everybody else in our orbit, it makes the entire company, it makes the entire business and entrepreneurial venture that much more successful and effective. And so I think that the mindset is a super really important one just right out of the gate. If you study the most successful entrepreneurs in history, they have a lot of similarities, they have a lot of differences. But one of the things that they all had was the ability to picture and vision what it is that they wanted and to be able to focus on that and make it happen. They didn't come into it from a perspective of negativity and then it somehow worked out anyway. They expected things to happen and be better than what other people could even dream were possible, and yet they were able to make it happen because they believed in it. So that belief and that positivity is super important as an entrepreneur. And so in addition to that, it's the idea of the fact that we're always growing and evolving, right? So we want to be doing that. We want to always be expanding and growing and getting better at everything we do. The second trait that's super important is goal setting and planning, right? Because if we want to reach the mountaintop and we have we don't know, we haven't sort of articulated or thought through what the mountaintop is, and we don't know what the terrain is like on the way, so we have no plan or map to get there, how are we ever going to get there? Somebody once said, how are you going to know if you get there if you don't know where you're going, right? So the fact is, we need to set goals. We need to have a clear idea of where we want to be. We want a clear idea of what we want to accomplish. That also allows everyone to focus on that true north, right? If we have an organization, whether they're outsourcers or staff or whatever, partners, it allows us to all have that common vision, that common goal in mind that we're all pulling toward, we're all striving to reach. So we definitely need to have clear goals, and we need to have a plan that backs that up. The goal is one step, and that's super important. But we also have to set plans in motion when we want to reach each goal. That's the only way we're ever going to get there. And so in terms of goal setting, there's an acronym somebody came up with as SMART goals, right? Specific, measurable, achievable, relevant, time-bound. Those are all really good attributes of a goal, because what you want is something that isn't just sort of a pie-in-the-sky vision thing, but it's more specific, it's more measurable, it's achievable. So that way you know where you are, you know where you want to get, and you have a way to quantify whether or not you're getting closer or further and how close. You want it to be achievable because it has to be something that at least has some believability with it. Otherwise, the best goal in the world with all the rest of it isn't going to matter. If I want to reach the moon by climbing a ladder and I want to do it in 3 weeks, well, it might be a great goal, but we all know that I'm not going to break the atmosphere with a ladder. So the fact of the matter is, it has to be, specific, so we have to know what we want, measurable, so we know where we are and how to get there, achievable, so it can be done, relevant, so it has to make sense for what we want to do, and time-bound. So that way we have a constraint, right? The Zeigarnik effect says that if we don't have a time limit on things, we will take as much time as we can. So I remember this in school, right, in final exams in college. Whenever there was a deadline for something, all of a sudden, even if it was 3 months out, very few people would work systematically toward that. So they were done at that time with an even amount of work. What most people do is wait till a couple of days before it's due, and then they start to cram because there's a time constraint. Well, the same thing goes with goals. If we say, you know what, I want to make this, thing, and I want to revolutionize this particular industry, and I've just sort of got it out there in the ether somewhere, we might sort of stumble toward it, but weeks and months and years are going to go by in the daily flow of business, and we're never going to get anywhere because the fact is we don't have a constraint. Once we know we have a constraint of time, we're focused and motivated because we know things have to happen with urgency. And so, that's how we're going to do that. And then we want to create a structured business plan to achieve that. So what we want to do is we want to break that into steps by working it backward from where we are. One of the things when I was, my initial big success in the digital marketing industry was when I was doing done-for-you services. And so they were software related and digital marketing and website related, but it was stuff like setting up this particular, software for people and stuff like that. And so the challenge with that is it was very labor intensive. And what I realized is even though I was making money, I knew I couldn't keep doing that because I either need a massive team, which I didn't want to build, or I would be working constantly. So no matter how much money I was making, so I knew I needed to shift. And so I set a plan in motion where I said, all right, what I did is I looked at what kind of business model could I be using where I could still be making this much money or more, but I could do it in a way where I have a lot more free time. Because ultimately, that's what it's all about. And what I realized was if I went into software and I found ways to automate and simplify things, then I could do it in the way that I wanted. That's a simplified explanation. It's actually much more detailed. I went through several iterations of this where it got better and better and better. So the first step, I set the goal to sort of get away from done-for-you services and more towards software. And I accomplished that, and that was good. I still found I was working too much. So then I set a plan to make it so I could partner with people so I would be doing less and on and on and on. And so I continued to do that, and I set the goal, and then I put a plan in place to get there. And at each step, that's how you achieve it, and that's how you get to the next step. And so you want to be able to take the goal that you want and then work it back to where you are today and figure out what are the steps that we need to accomplish to get there, and then focus on reaching them one at a time. And that's exactly how you're going to do that. The third trait of world-class entrepreneurs is time management and productivity, right? Look, we are all constrained by time. We are all constrained by how productive we can be. It's funny because I know someone, and I'm not going to embarrass her, but I know someone who has a really hard time. She thinks if she has a weekend, she has no family. And so she's single and living alone, and she's an adult working professional with a reasonable job with reasonable demands on her time. And she thinks that if over the weekend she has to do laundry, that's exhausting, right? She needs a day off after having to do laundry and cook a meal for herself over the weekend. Laundry and making meals in my house don't even make my list. That's how low they are. They're just automatic. Because I have so many other things to do that I don't even put those on a list. Those are just included in the daily, like whatever, and just get done automatically through the course of everything. And so we all have the same amount of time. It's how productive can we be in that time and how well do we use it. It doesn't mean we need to be working around the clock. What it means is we need to be smart about the way we work so we have a balance in our lives and can do that. And great entrepreneurs do this. They find ways to manage their time and productivity so they are able to fill all their buckets. They're able to do all the work stuff and get it all done, but they're also able to have time for themselves and their families and everything else. So that way there's a balance. They're recharging their own batteries and they're feeling fulfilled and successful along the way. And so we want to have some system that we're using that allows us to focus on the most important things, right? Because we all have the same number of hours in a day, and that allows us to work through those one at a time. And so by doing that, what we're going to be able to do is get a lot of the things done that we need to get done, and do it in time that other people, might not even realize is possible. We also want to automate, we want to simplify, we want to outsource, and we want to delegate as much as possible. So anything that we're doing that's repetitive or could easily be outsourced, automated, delegated, we want to do that because it's going to free up other time for us to be able to do other things. The other thing I've found that's very successful is using time blocks. So I know that I have 4 areas that I need to work on every single day. I could work for my full workday on any one of those areas, any one of my projects, and I could totally fill the day with it. But I also know that if I do that, the other 3 areas all fall down. And then I'm playing whack-a-mole, where I work too hard this day on this, so the next day I have to drop this and go to that, but now this is falling off, so I got to get back to that. And I was doing that routine for years, playing the whack-a-mole game, and it's very disconcerting. It's not very productive or effective. And so what I started to do is break things down at a time. If I know that I'm going to work for 6 hours today or 8 hours today, I'm going to set aside 2 hours to do this, 2 hours to do that, 1 hour for that, 1 hour for that. And as far as I get with it, I get with it. I'm going to be disciplined and motivated and focused, but when I work through that, that's the amount of time I'm going to devote to that. And so that way I know all of my balls are moving up the field constantly. I'm not letting any of them fall, and I'm not losing track on any one of the projects. So they're all moving forward together. Now there may be times where I need to shift that. Oh, I have a product launch next week, so this week I got to spend my full days on this particular thing for the next 3 days. That's fine, because then the week after I can totally table that and focus more on the other 3 areas. But the fact of the matter is time blocks work really well. And so we need to prioritize what's important. We need to deprioritize what's unimportant. And the most important thing that I've found as an entrepreneur is being able to say no to things that are unimportant. They might be indulgent. You might like to check your email and your stats and your social media feeds, but if it isn't business related, it needs to happen later. It needs to be done by somebody else, or it needs to be something that just isn't prioritized during the day. So if we do that and we develop a great way to be productive and efficient, then that is an awesome way to ensure our success. The 4th trait is networking and building relationships. Okay, so it's super important that no matter whether we're solopreneurs or we feel we can conquer the world. I'm guilty of that. I've always sort of felt like I worked really well on my own, but the fact is I've held myself back with that belief, because we can only do things, we're all interdependent, and we become a lot more effective and a lot more successful when we start to engage and involve other people, because everybody has different skill sets, everybody has different strengths and weaknesses. And this can be from a staff perspective of getting other people who are delegating and outsourcing, but it could also be partners. I've found that by partnering and doing joint ventures with a lot of other of my colleagues, I've become a lot more effective and successful, and hopefully they have too. And so it isn't just for people that you're delegating to or outsourcing to, it's also for people that are peers or people that are in other situations. But it's a really important skill, because the ability to network, the ability to build relationships is actually the number one business skill. The fact of the matter is I work in an industry where a lot of the people are in our own places, and we only see each other when we have a conference, because everything is done digitally and online. The irony is relationships have actually become more important, not less, because of that. When we go to an event and see each other, it creates a completely different relationship. It takes the relationships to a whole new level than seeing somebody across a Skype feed or social media feed. And so it's super important that as entrepreneurs, we're able to build relationships and that we're able to network, because those are things that are going to help us tremendously in terms of getting tips and tricks and hacks for what we want to do, for finding resources and people that have connections that we need and that we can help them with as well, and being able to do all of those kinds of things. So that's a very, very important trait of successful entrepreneurs. The 5th trait is the ability to overcome challenges and be resilient, right? To develop that sort of commitment to doing what we're doing. Every entrepreneur in every business in every walk of life is going to run into problems. They're going to run into challenges. And if you run at the first sign of trouble, entrepreneurship is not for you. It's really just that simple. I lost my entire business, 3 months worth of work, picked up, dusted myself off, and kept going. I had the entire market implode on me, and it took me a couple of years to dust myself off, build it back, and get back to where I was. And both times, because I was committed to the cause, I did it. And I'm not alone. I mean, if you read any story of any great entrepreneur, they all have that in common, because nobody gets from here to there with all green lights and no bumps in the road. There are always going to be days and things and events that challenge your resolve, that challenge your commitment, that challenge your desire and your resilience and your ability to work through that and keep going. It's a really important trait of entrepreneurs, and it's actually one that makes a big difference between success and failure. A lot of people have all the rest of this, but if they lack that one trait, they give up too soon, and they lose out before they didn't realize that right around the next corner was the success that they were looking for. And then the sixth trait is continuous learning and self-improvement. Stephen Covey calls this sharpening the saw, right? So as good as we are at all these other areas, or as much as we may care about stuff that we're doing, the fact of the matter is we can always grow. As human beings, that's just who we are. And it's that growth mindset and the understanding and willingness to keep growing, desire to keep growing, and prioritization, because we're often busy. But if we stagnate and we stay where we are and we don't keep growing, we limit the potential of our business. Our business can only grow to the degree that we can grow it, to the degree that we can have the vision and the skills and the tools that we need to get it to where we want it to be. So the more we grow, the more our business can grow as well. And great entrepreneurs understand this and always develop lifelong learning as just part of who they are. And that's a super important trait. So the takeaway here is that we all have different strengths and weaknesses. As entrepreneurs, it's vital that we develop in 6 specific areas if we want to maximize our potential. Some of those areas are going to be natural and easy for us, while others may make us stretch beyond our comfort zone. By developing these 6 key traits, we can become more complete business owners and entrepreneurs, and the personal development may actually help us in our private lives too.